Hi, I'm Peggy at Headshots by Peggy, and today I have Laura Gardner with me.
Hi, Laura Gardner here.
Laura, I'm really happy that you came on and agreed to talk with us. So I'm sure everyone knows who you are, but you are a very successful actor. You have a great career, but you're also an instructor.
Yeah.
You've been teaching at the
Howard Fine Acting Studio.
for quite some time.
A bit over 18 years, it's
Wow.
hard to believe. And I have been teaching, I say it since I started to try to control people, which would be around the 15, 16. But I studied with Uta Hagen and with Carol Rosenfeld, and I just got back from auditing the first day of Carol Rosenfeld's acting teaching intensive, Uta Hagen workshop intensive, and I spoke on a panel there, and I'll be going back on Sunday to sit in another day, and it is just absolutely affirming of all the work that I've been doing as an actor and as a teacher.
So how did you get into acting?
I started lying
Yeah.
about food, and I was I actually that is part of it, but I just wanted to sing all the time, and I was always trying to sound things out on the piano, and I would sing and act, and there was just never a doubt in my mind from really the age of 4 or 5 that I had to perform, I had to sing, and I would adopt families around the building. I grew up in New York City, in an apartment building, and I would adopt families and go and entertain. And if I was at camps, starting at the age of 5, we were at a sleepaway camp, and I was one of the lullaby kids in The Wizard of Oz, and I never doubted that I was supposed to act and sing. There was never a question about it.
That's really cool. That's kind of how I was with photography. I always had a camera in my hand, and you asked me at any age what I was going to do when I grew up, and I would say a photographer. So yeah. I think there are a few of us that just always knew what we were going to do and did it. And I think that's something special not everybody has, because some people are out there trying to find themselves, and I never understood that.
Well, I was just always grateful that there was never a question, and I was a pushy little girl, and my acting wasn't so hot all the time, and I was able to. There was enough magic and enough imagination that I felt as if I tricked people until I started to really train.
Fake it till you make it.
And that was really what it was. And my grandmother had been a singer with a band, and it was my father's cousin who had been an opera singer, so there was some kind of entertainment in our family. And my mother never admitted that she wanted to be an actress.
Aww.
And that's part of it.
Yeah. Well, that's really cool. So you've had a successful career, literally your whole life. You've been...
Well, I did have some struggles. I don't want people to think that everything came really easy to me, because I was such a... singing was so effortless to me that I really worked hard on my acting more. And then I paid for it because I didn't train enough as a singer. So the key here, everyone, is you train with anything you do. But for me, I did start working professionally when I was in my late teens, and I went to university for school, and then I left graduate school. I had started teaching already at Rutgers with Carol Rosenfeld, and I got a musical theater tour, which was union, so I left to do that, and then I just moved right into New York. I had actually been raised in New York, but we moved to New Jersey, and I went to school at BU for a while, Boston University Conservatory, and then went to Rutgers. And when I moved back to New York, I was studying, and then I'd go out and do theater, and then I was studying, and then I came back and waitressed and proofread and trained and trained and trained and did... There was something about the energy of New York that and if I go back now, it's the same thing. Walking down the street, running into another actor, I would touch them, they would touch me, and magic would happen, and everybody would start to book. But there was always this sense of the training part of it never stopped. The exploration, the part of really feeling as if there's more to explore. And the teaching, when I was in New York, I would act, and teaching was secondary. and I did Broadway, and I did national tours, and I did some TV, and then at 40, I moved to LA, and it was a very big transition for me, and so I taught more and acted less and tried to find my bearings, and then I started to act and got more and more TV and still did theater, and then life issues occurred and my dad got ill, and so I just taught so I could have the focus and time for my father. And when he passed, I had married by this time, and my husband is an actor, Frank Collison, and suddenly I went, whoa, acting.
Oh yeah, I remember
should be
this.
acting again. So after about 2.5, 3 years, I started acting again, and it has been, the last 3 or 4 years have been there's been a wonderful melding of going away and doing something, or doing something in town, or doing TV or a short film or a play, reading or a play, and consistently teaching at Howard Fine, or I do my own workshops, which are slightly different, that are a mixture of what Uta Hagen taught, but it's my take on telling the truth, and my take on how to make the transition between theater, film, and TV.
Because that's a big transition.
It's the same, but it's not, and there needs to be an adjustment. That, for me, coming from New York as a stage actor, it was a little more difficult for me at the beginning to understand that when, if any of you are actors out there, which I'm assuming you are, that when a director says, don't act, that doesn't mean shut down, pull back, and hide everything. It means just tell the truth, simply. And it's what we're doing in this interview.
Find your truth and tell it.
Yeah. And that would be across the board. So it's sort of, I say it's Alice in Wonderland. It's who was the guy? Mad Hatter. Say what you mean and mean what you say.
Yeah.
And that's really what it is. If you tell the truth, coming out of who you are, and that would go for photographs as well. If you're really present in who you are, and during the course of a day, we are many different selves,
things, different selves,
depending on who we're talking to and what just happened. And so it ends up, from my point of view now, particularly as I'm older, that acting and living are the same. It's being conscious and mindful of where you are at any given time.
Now, you do more stage than anyone else that I've ever had on my vlog. So I want to talk just a little bit about headshots with stage actors. I know with, commercial and theatrical, it's the micro expression. When you're doing stage, is it more of a commercial? Is it more of a big, headshot, or is it just same as anything else? It just matters for the part that you're...
I think it's again, particularly because with a lot of stage now, auditions are being taped. And so when they look at a resume, they can see what the work is, but so many theater directors are more interested in the same thing than any film or TV is, on seeing who the person is and seeing what is going on in the eyes, and not, because as soon as we elevate thinking that theater is this bigger thing, then any director is going to go, ugh, theatrical. And they are looking for the only difference between stage and film and TV, as far as I'm concerned, is that you need to reach a little more. That, there's another teacher, he shall remain nameless, that I read his book, and it was very good, but he's going to remain nameless. I haven't trained with him, but he said that a camera is as if the camera's a cat. And if I start going towards a cat, they're gone. And in theater, to me, the real difference is that my needs need to be a little bit stronger, because it's not going to go past between the proscenium to, and most theater now. I mean, last year I played Camilla Parker Bowles in, that you saw that? It was in King Charles III at Pasadena Playhouse.
I missed that one.
So that's an 850-seat house, and I think it's 800. And that's where I come from. And for me, doing film and TV and theater that's very intimate, to suddenly be doing something that's really Shakespearean, and to still find the simplicity and the truth, it was a wonderful journey. And it really is, once again, about the language is what helps me to get heard in the back row. It's not about suddenly I'm bigger, but it's really telling the truth.
Yeah. So you say tell the truth all the time, and I'll tell you a funny story. When I first met Merrick, that was one of the things I told him. As I said, I've never dated an actor because you lie for a living, and he was like just crushed. He was like, no, I tell the truth for a living. And you know, of course, now I work with actors every day, and you know, I realize the actors that understand that it's about telling the truth. Those are the actors that succeed, because it really is about telling the truth, not about.
Well, actors don't know that who they are at any given time is more interesting than any idea they have of who they are or what they think the casting person wants. And so, again, in pictures, what's most interesting to me is someone who is just allowing themselves to think of who is in the camera and who am I talking to in the camera and what just happened. So it's not dramatic, but it's simply, yes, we are different. So if I'm wearing a suit, I'm going to be a little bit more uptight. If I'm wearing my glasses, it's a little more, you know, cool or nerdy. If I'm wearing pearls or low cut, I'm going to be, there's a different Laura. But as soon as, if I'm working with a photographer, and we haven't worked together yet, if I'm working with a photographer and they start giving me some weird directions, I start to shut down.
I find how I work is I just talk. We just have a conversation, because in a conversation you bring out different things. You know, just like, you know, we could talk about your grandmother. You mentioned your grandmother. We could talk about your grandmother, and your whole presence would change. Versus if we're talking about, you know, an instructor that you didn't care for or whatever it would be. You know, so just, you know, and that's to me how. Even throughout the day, you know how I talk to my daughter and how I am with you. Those are two different Peggy's. They're both honest. They're just completely different.
Well, what's nice for those who aren't that experienced is that we're having this conversation right now, and the camera is a voyeur, but it's not as if I'm going, right. You know, I'm not worrying about what am I doing, because this is what's important, and that would be the same thing of what's important in an audition or what's important when you're shooting. Camera is there, but what's important is what's happening
right here. And so when you teach, what is the one thing that you find that, you know, people have the most struggle with, or the one thing that you're like, this is so easy, why don't you, you know, just this, you know, I know there's probably a handful of things that every person kind of has the same little.
The most difficult thing for actors is to acknowledge that who they are is enough. And
that's tough for everybody in general, not just actors. If we all thought we were enough, the world would be perfect.
Well, you know, they say in different places that I say that actors and addicts are very similar. That it's called the arrogant doormat. That I'm better than and I should be a star. I'm horrible and you should never hire me. And that somewhere in there, that's the artist, the suffering artist. But when we are in the presence of truth, when someone is really there, we lean forward and we don't even know why. It's just we're identifying with what's happening on the stage or on the screen. When we see somebody who is trying to get us, is trying to do a trick, trying to make us feel, trying to make us laugh, then we pull back and we shut down. And so the importance is to really place ourselves truthfully in the circumstances once again. And who we decide the other person is going to color everything.
Right. That's true.
Yeah.
That's true. That's good.
Well, thanks. It's been said all over the place,
but
I just repeat it.
Well, that's good.
I steal from the best.
That's exactly what we do. Yeah. So you're going to Hawaii. You got all sorts of stuff.
Yeah. Well, I just got back from Santa Fe, and I started teaching in Santa Fe about.
How is that? How is it to be in Santa Fe? Because Santa Fe has just this whole other energy. This is this whole other.
I love Santa Fe. I have a twin who is about under 5 foot, and after the earthquake in '94, she moved to Santa Fe, and Howard was asked to go to Santa Fe to teach, and he didn't want to travel, so he said, "I know you have a sister there. Do you want to go?"
Do you want to go?
So
Perfect.
I said, "Of course." So I taught about in 1 year, maybe I went back and forth 3 times. And I loved the students. They were very open. They were very hungry. And things were just starting to shoot in New Mexico. And then fast forward with my life and my father, and then my sister moved to Florida, that a long time went by. So I called a very dear friend of mine. Her name is Debriana Mancini, who is an actress, a writer, and she was in my class 15 years ago, and I said, would you be interested in me coming out and teaching again? She said, oh my God, yes. So we started about 6 years ago, and I started going back, and so since then the market has been booming.
They
in New
do
Mexico.
a lot of filming in
Well,
New
they just
Mexico.
got major incentives again. They have a new governor. And so I started going back, and I had huge classes because everyone was actually interested in training. And over the last 6 years, I would go anywhere from 4 or 5 times a year. And yes, there is an energy and a beauty about Santa Fe and the people. And for Christmas, Frank and I, my husband, decided to go and visit Debriana, who does this. She's Italian. She does the 7 fishes dinner, and she's incredible. And so we went, and when we were deciding to go, I said, let me do a class with just the students who have been with me before, and let's make it a celebration. So we went. We did one day, and Frank joined me for about an hour. Yeah. And the work I do in my intensives is called an authenticity workshop. So the work is about really connecting to who you are in a very private way, and then placing that into work that you'd be doing for film and TV. So the first day is a lot of private work, and it's maybe a monologue from the theater, or it may be something you write, and then I see who the people are, and then I give them a role that I think would be interesting for them to explore. For the second day, we tape it, and then we watch it back. So it's a really interesting journey. Yeah. And I have a student who was here about 3 or 4 years ago, who lives in Hawaii, and she's tried to get me to Hawaii, and she just is not a very good marketer. And Hawaii, it's a very different kind of sensibility there, and a lot of people don't train. And they do have a SAG office, but what happened is that a friend of Frank's, he hadn't seen in years, lives in Hawaii now, so I contacted her. We met in Santa Fe. She just happened to be visiting in Santa Fe. So we had been talking on the phone, and then we met in Santa Fe, and we fell in love with each other. And she contacted her friends at the SAG office, and now I'm doing a Friday night SAG conservatory class, which I've done all over the country. And then that Saturday and Sunday, I'll do 2 days of my intensive again, and then I'll have 2 days vacation, unless I book something I'm auditioning for, in which case I'll be coming back sooner. But I've done that workshop in Hawaii, Washington State, Florida, Wales. I was doing a play in Wales, Texas. So wherever, I really love taking what I do because I think it's very fast, but in those 2 days, there's an enormous amount of information. And people, there's an adjustment that happens to them. There's a shift in how they perceive themselves and how they perceive the work. And then if I can get back another time during the year, it just supports what they're doing, and people are booking.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah, it's great.
That's really good.
Okay.
So how do people get involved in your class?
Well, if they're in California, they really have to have had prior training. That at our studio, the only way to start working with me is through that, or they can take Howard's technique class, and then he might put them in with me. Because what I do in LA is Howard does the technique class. I used to do that too, and then we decided he would do this 9-week class. I would do something that it's an advanced accelerated 8 times a month process class for people who have had some experience, so they can get the vocabulary faster, and then they can all move into my Wednesday night ongoing class. The authenticity workshop I haven't done ever in LA, and it's something that I think would be really beneficial, but it's not something that I would do with our studio. So keep open, because I'm trying to figure out exactly how and when to do that. So because it is different, and it addresses film and TV much more than I do at the studio. So and I work privately with a lot of people in town.
Do you like one-on-one?
Private, yeah, one-on-one, and I do some Skype sessions, FaceTime sessions, and I have, as an actress that was on Beth Ricegraf, who was a series regular on, oh God, what was it? She played Parker. Oh my God, she was the first. It's on Complications. And it was a series with all these quirky, oh my God, quirky detectives. I'll look it up, and if we come back,
I'll put it on.
I can't believe I've forgotten.
It'll be right as they're watching. It's going to be running right here.
Okay, well, she's doing a play at Hartford Stage right now. It's her first play, and she's been doing film and TV for 15 years.
Yeah.
And she's fabulously talented, and it just went out of my mind. I'll look it up on my phone. Yeah, it was a series for about 6 years.
Wow,
and it was great. And I have, there are a lot of my students and Howard students that are working all over the place.
Of course, we see you on TV all the time.
You do. If you go to the Romanoffs, that's on Amazon Prime. I'm in episode 2. You do not have to watch episode 1. It's all separate.
We watched the series, because we knew you were on it, so we started watching it, and then we just kept watching it because
we haven't finished it yet.
We haven't figured it out yet. But you don't have to watch it in order. You can just jump right in. You're not going to get lost. You'll still get lost, but you're not going to get any more lost.
I just get a lot of stuff from friends and old students. I was on Castle 2 weeks ago. Somebody saw I have a Criminal Minds that runs all the time, and it was probably 10 or 11 years ago. I was last year on Doubt, that didn't last very long. Doubt and LauraGardner.org. Everything is up there. But and there was actually a Lifetime movie that was running the last 2 weeks called Stalked by My Patient. And I was the doctor's mother.
The doctor's
and
mother.
That was I'm in the whole movie. It's a very scary movie. So I had a very busy year last year, and a lot of short films, festival films that are happening all over the place.
You're also a member of the Road Theater. That's actually where we originally met.
That is true.
Through the Road.
Yeah, I've been with them on and off now for 21 years.
Oh, wow.
And the first show I did there was called Idle Wheels by James Morrison, who was a series regular in 24, a gorgeous Alaskan writer. And I was nominated for a Valley Award. It was a great play. And then I did something called Tainted Blood, which we got Best Ensemble by Tom Jacobson, and I played a mixture. It was Lady Bracknell. It was a play about Sherlock Holmes, Lady Bracknell, a vampire.
Oh, vampire.
It was a crazy play, and it was wonderful, and we ran for close to a year at the Road.
Oh, wow.
We brought in a lot of money. And then I came back to them and was the cover on a couple of shows. And then the last show I did was 6 years ago, which was Lake Anne. But I've done a lot of readings that are they've been wonderful plays.
Now, if my viewers don't know, the Road Theater, almost every Monday, they stop different times, but almost every Monday they have a reading, and it's free or donation.
It's by donation. It just helps the company, and it's something called The Word. And these are new plays that either the members bring or there's a playwright who's interested in having their work done, presented at the Road. And this particular play, I'm doing a reading January 14th at 8 o'clock at the Magnolia Space. And this was written by a playwright and his wife, who's also a playwright, William Missouri Downs, and his wife, Lucy Wright. And it's called Becky and Her Lung Transplant. Now, I go to the Last Frontier Theater Conference in Alaska. It's a playwrights conference and an actors conference in Valdez, Alaska. It's going into our 13th year that I've been going. This has been going on for 26 years. And I met William and his wife, and this play is about Hollywood, it's about relationships, it's about reality. It is hysterically funny and very touching. And it's myself, Amy Tolsky, Josh.
She's funny. She's great.
She's wonderful. Josh Zuckerman, who is fabulous, and Kay Capasso, and Matthew Singletary, who's a terrific director. And we're presenting it at 8 o'clock, January 14th, and it's well worth, I think we're probably going to be full. It's an incredible play, and because you don't know what's real and what isn't. And my character is a screenwriter who was I busted my boss before the Me Too. happened. So
before.
I lost my job and people don't want to deal with me. So it's hysterically funny that whatever happens to me in trying to get myself back on track. So it's I don't want to give away the secrets, but it's a wonderful play.
I love going to plays, and I have found that sometimes I love the readings even more than the big productions because they're just, I don't know.
Well, there's a simplicity, once again, in the reading that the actors are not running all over the stage.
I think it lets my imagination do a lot of the work.
Yeah, I agree. And what I find sometimes is that when a director tries to do too much in a reading, the audience is lost in the movement and they can't hear the play. And the importance of a reading is to allow the flaws to be there. When you get great actors, sometimes you can't see what the problems are because the actors are making it too good.
Yeah. Well, I like I said, I encourage people to come out, especially the one that you're going to be in. I'll be there for sure.
Oh, yeah.
So that sounds exciting. But it just, the readings to me have, I think maybe because it's not as polished and, you don't have, costumes or anything. And I know when I first heard about it, I was like, a reading, why would that be fun? And then I went, and before Merrick even joined the road, I was going with Michelle. And, so I'd gone to several readings, and I was like, this is awesome.
Well, there's something for an actor. Look, I've done in the last year, Michelle Gillette, lovely actress, she was reminded me last night that I've done more readings than a lot of other people. I went, well, okay. But the last play I did there was a few weeks ago where I played a Polish woman in first act, a Polish maid, and in the second act I played a woman with dementia who was Jewish, funny, and to be able to just do that and not worry about anything, but just bringing that to, it's so exciting.
That was a fun reading. We went to
it was great, and the one before that was a play, I believe. I was the mother of a young man, of a woman who committed suicide, and written by Catherine Butterfield, who wrote for the Ghost Whisperer and wrote a lot of plays for off Broadway, and I don't know if she's been done on Broadway. She's a wonderful writer. That was extraordinary. And
there's so much talent. I mean, people that are getting started in acting, they need to just hang out at the road because there's so many amazing writers and directors and actors, and there's just the energy at the road is fun.
I love that you're there, and I love that Merrick is there, and there's something about being a part of a theater company because the theater, both theaters are so small that you really do get a sense of it being vitally in front of you. The Magnolia space is a little bigger, but there's something about a company, a membership company, where people are all cheerleading each other to do something that matters. And people don't do theater unless they really care about bringing some kind of communication to the world because it doesn't pay.
Exactly.
So,
and it doesn't pay definitely for the time you put into it.
No.
But it's just the energy there is just so.
It's a great company.
Yeah, I told Merrick, I was like, I know this is your thing, but it's kind of my thing, so let it be my thing too, because I just love hanging out there and getting to meet people like you and Frank, and of course Samantha has adopted you and Frank.
Yeah,
so
that's great.
She's like,
great.
yeah, this is family.
Yeah, that's great.
So, what other tip would you like to throw out to people before we close it up?
If you want to act, it should be for the long term. That most actors don't make a living acting. If you're lucky, that may happen. But the bottom line is that there's nothing about, if you're in New Mexico, most of the actors there really have other lives. And then anytime you act, it's icing on the cake. So I think it's really important to find some work that you're not ashamed of, that you hate going in to do, but something that, to me, acting and life are really, they can't help but reflect on each other. So if I'm doing work that I hate, it's going to make my acting, I'm suffering, I'm miserable. And I happen to be lucky that I've always loved teaching, so it's not as if I'm teaching because I can't get acting jobs. I have chosen to turn down acting jobs because it would get in the way of my teaching, and my students are really important to me. and to keep training with different people and working out, because this is with YouTube and Instagram and Facebook, everybody thinks that they can become an instant star, and for some of them they can, but they're not going to be in it for the long run because they're not going to know what to do when they're on set.
When I interned as a photographer with an amazing photographer, and then I went on and did my own thing, and I had my two oldest, and I ran into him. I hadn't seen him. His name's Kevin Hurtley. I hadn't seen him for several years, and I ran into him, and he said, "Are you still a professional photographer?" And I said, "Yeah, part-time." And he said, "There's no such thing as a part-time. You're either perfecting your craft daily or it's a hobby." And I felt like that's so true, even with acting. Maybe you're doing other, but teaching is definitely, you're still in there, perfecting your craft. But even if you're not auditioning every day, even if you're not working every day, you should be doing something to keep that alive and keep that and you can do that at your day job. You can still do things that perfect your craft, because you got to keep that sharp, and you got to be take classes, do things, keep it fresh.
I totally agree, and there are a lot of places you can take classes that are not outrageously expensive. And if you don't have the money, get together with a group of people and start just reading scenes together. Don't just work on scenes from movies and TV that are famous. Find things that you start writing, a writing group that you're, and be aware once again of what you're doing in your life, because I want to slap the guy who you were protegeing with, because there are different ways to keep yourself alive if you're not getting paid doing it all the time. And God knows I don't get paid all the time, but I'm constantly going to theater. I'm working out with people. I'm reading poetry. I'm working on my voice. I'm training with my voice teacher. I'm aware that if I start thinking I've got it done and I have all the information and I'm perfect, then I may as well be dead. Yeah. Because I change, therefore the work has to change. Everybody's always growing and changing, and therefore your craft always evolves and changes. Right. And it's a fun life that you've chosen, though. It is a fun life. It's you have to do it because you love it, not because you think you're going to be rich and famous, though. This is something you have to do because it's part of you. Do you know, I remember talking to my mother, and I had fantasies when I was in high school, and I thought, I'll have a house in Ireland, and have an apartment here, and I have a this there, and I have a ranch there. And what I always really wanted was dogs and to act. And Frank and I just had 2 dogs, unfortunately, that both are gone. I knew you were going to say that and make us cry. Within 2 months, we lost both our dogs. And they gave us 12 years, 112, 111, that were extraordinary. And I just will get dogs again. I think that dogs, cats, these are just their beings that need to interact with us, and we need them. And from my point of view, being able to, I'm happy, but it doesn't mean that acting job is going to make me happy, or that dog is going to make me happy, or that marriage is going to make me happy. It's living a full life and addressing all the things that occur, and not seeing the hurdles we have, or the pain, the disappointments are all part of the work and part of being alive. And as soon as I start to think that that I shouldn't have to be this way or feel this way or suffer, or I deserve to be a star, it's not, I really just wanted to be a working actor. And, seeing my mentor, Kara Rosenfeld, the other night, and realizing that part of the journey for me, and certainly for Carol, is to maintain the integrity that Uta Hagen, who wrote A Challenge for the Actor, and Carol Rosenfeld's book, which is called Acting and Living in Discovery, which is Acting and Living in Discovery. It's a fabulous book that, and Howard Fine has a terrific book called Fine on Acting as well. And for me, I know my job is in life to keep helping people see who they are as actors and as human beings. I do not need to be rich, although it certainly helps, which I'm not, never have been. But I have enough to get by. I'm somebody who doesn't I don't need a lot of money. I wouldn't mind it, but I don't live according to what's going to get me there, because people who are there, you know, Howard says something really good. There is no there, there's only here. In order to get there, I have to be here. And that here keeps changing if I stay present in the here. Isn't that crazy?
It is.
Very Buddhist.
And, you know, it's true, though. You know, nothing's going to make you happy. You have to be happy. And then the other things in life you enjoy, and they contribute to your happiness. You know,
and acting and teaching for me, and interacting with other people, and being an actor gives me an opportunity to really observe other people and see where, because I think acting and living, and for you as a photographer, the same thing. There's the magic is in the connection.
Exactly.
And without the connection to other humanoids and to these, you know, for me, dogs, cats, and, you know, the spirit, that they're, why bother?
There's times that and you, I'm sure, do the same thing. There's times that I sit down and I think of all the things. I grew up in Kansas. I grew up in the middle of nowhere. And there are times I think that camera, the places I've gone and the people I've met because I had a camera in my hand. And you, I'm sure, have thought, you know, the things you've been able to do, and the people you've been able to meet, and the places you've been able to go just because you do what you do.
I can go to Hawaii
and
to
work,
teach.
Right?
I mean, I love that, and I'll audition when I'm there. I've gone, you know, to Toronto to shoot. The Romanovs was in Toronto.
I wondered where they shot that.
Oh, they flew us up for the table read. That's Matt Weiner. Flew us up. I mean, I was treated really well.
I actually like the series. I haven't figured it out completely, but
I
like it.
Well, I'll let you know after I've watched the whole thing. I think episode 2 and 3 are my favorites so far. Yeah. But I haven't seen them all. And I love the people I've met. I feel going to Alaska every year and being in the middle of what I call Little Brigadoon, and watching the otters, and going out on the boat, and I get to teach people and let them experience something new. I did a play last year in Alaska, the year before last, it was summer before last, called With Love in a Major Organ by Julia Lederer, that was done at the Boston Court last year, and it was an extraordinary experience, and it was about opening the heart. And it was as big a deal to me as 37 or 38 years ago when I did Moon for the Misbegotten by Eugene O'Neill, which was the play that I could have died after I had done that, because that was the play from the age of 21 I was looking to do. Wow. And that role makes me think of Stephen Tobolowsky, because he was talking about Mornings at 7, that I saw him do that role. I saw another actor in New York do it, David Rounds, and both of them were equally wonderful. But when you find a role that, I mean, the enormous identification I had with this character, and the enormous identification I had 37 years later with Love in a Major Organ, that to me, that acting, you know, there's a director who said it to me, Ed Stern. He said, when the actor, it was on Moon for the Misbegotten, Eugene O'Neill, when the actors, the director, the playwright, and God all come together, then it's magic. That is the true magic, and is out of our hands. And I think that part of life and part of acting is to acknowledge that there is, whatever that is to anybody, it's something bigger than us. It's not just about this ego-driven person, but it's about what am I doing in service of the world, of the magic of the world. And when
you have that perception, and you have that drive, and that, then things just line up differently. Because, you know, you could have just, why aren't I making X amount of dollars by this point in my career, and get an attitude and just shrivel up and go away. Or you continue to love what you do, and you just, you know, find amazing things in every corner. So I think a lot of it is, you know, being true to yourself, being honest, and finding your own happiness, and wanting to be the best you.
Yeah. And that's what acting and being in the work is. It's in doing anything you love. You know, we're again having a sort of a spiritual interview thing, but it really is, the bottom core is that we as artists and actors, we're shaman, and we have the responsibility, I feel I have a responsibility to make a difference in the world.
Absolutely. You have a platform that not everyone has.
Yeah, and you as a photographer can help facilitate that for an actor.
Exactly. Thanks so much for coming
Oh,
on.
it's my
Yay! Okay, I'm going to leave all of her information below so you can click on and follow her and you know, make sure that you can follow her career and just, you know, maybe get into some classes if you decide to do an intensive here in LA or...
I will let you know. Peggy will let you know.
So anyway, if you haven't already, make sure you follow me. Subscribe, that's what I'm looking for. Subscribe to my YouTube and share this, leave us comments, and most importantly, have an amazing day, and I'll see you next week. Thanks so much. This was fun.